Well, ladies and gentlemen, happy Wednesday and welcome to the last Wednesday before pay period deadline. What does that mean? That means we are rapidly approaching the close of the month to push new ranks, new members, new customers, and make sure we take advantage of all the promotions we have going on. So, if you're just now joining us, if we're meeting for the first time, my name is Julian Doan. I'm from Southern California. I'm actually a director here with Riman and Team 1%. And if you have caught the last two trainings I've done for Team 1%, the first one I did was called Built to Last. And in that training, you got a chance to, decide who you are, right? We talked about how identity comes before tactics. And then the last training I did, we talked about, it's called The Inevitable, right? And that's where we talk about how you make the identity compound. How at the end of the day, systems are more important than willpower. Now, here's the good news. If this is your first time in a Zoom with me, don't worry, you haven't missed anything that you can't catch up on. All the previous Zooms are pre-recorded. And also, on top of that, everything I'm about to teach you today stands on its own. Because here's where we're going now. Okay. The first two talks that we had together were all about you, right? Who you became and what you built. Now, today's topic is a deeper topic, and this is about the ones that come after you. Okay. This one's about everyone who comes after you. Because guess what? You became, you compounded. But the most important part of a leader's job is to multiply, is to duplicate, right? And why is that so important? Because at the end of the day, for your notes, there is a limit to what you can build alone, but there's no limit to what you can build in others. So let me say it again. There is no limit to what you can build alone, right? And no limit to what you can build in others, right? So again, it's huge. It's huge. So let's talk about it. Now, there's two types of people on this call, right? And I know, again, on this Zoom, there's two kinds of people, right? And I want to speak to both of you directly, right? Now, if you're on this Zoom and if you're brand new, you might be thinking to yourself, like, Julian, multiply? Like, I don't even have a team yet. Well, guess what? That's a good thing because that means you get to learn this before you build any bad habits, right? Now, why is that important? Because at the end of the day, leadership is not a rank you unlock later, right? It's a way you show up from day one, right? So if you learn to multiply now, guess what? You'll never have to unlearn being a solo act in this business, right? And one of the things that my mentor taught me on early on, a funny saying is a lone ranger is a broke stranger, right? So, you don't want to do this alone. You don't want to be a solo act. There's no such thing as self-made. It's team-made here, okay? Now, I want to talk to the veterans, okay? The people that have been around for a while. Someone with the team, with the rank, with results. And, I'm going to say something that might sting a little bit, okay? And what that is very, very simple. Your growth is no longer the point. You've already proven that you can produce, right? You hit the ceiling of what one person, even a great one, can do. You see, your next level was never going to come from more effort from you. It comes from more leaders that come from you. Now, why is that important? Because wherever you are in the room, today is about the people who will carry what you started. And that's how you build a legacy. So let's talk about the agenda today, right? I like to talk about, number one, what we're going to talk about. Then I like talking about it. And then I like talking about what we talked about, okay? So here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the 5 laws of multiplication, right? We're going to talk about the ceiling of one, right? Why your success stops being about you. We're going to talk about why leadership is caught, not taught. And we're going to talk about the big shift from a producer to a multiplier, right? We're going to talk about how to build influence without pressure. That's huge. And we're going to talk about how to build a standard that outlives you, okay? So let's start at the very beginning, which is the ceiling, okay? So let's talk about the ceiling, okay? There is a limit to one. You see, there's a limit to what one person can build. Now, at the end of the day, I don't care how disciplined you are. I don't care how early you wake up, how hard you work, right? Guess what? You have 24 hours every single day, one body, one calendar. And if everything you're building runs through you, then you are the ceiling, not the market, not the company, you. But here's the beautiful part. There's no limit to what one person can multiply. And the moment you stop trying to do more and start trying to build more people who can, guess what happens? The ceiling disappears, okay? So let me show you the difference in the simplest terms that I can, okay? You see, most people build by what we call addition, right? They do the work, one customer plus one plus one. And that's honorable. Why? Because that's where everyone starts. But you see, addition has a problem. It grows one at a time. It stops the moment you stop, and it's capped. Guess what? By your hours, and it dies with your energy. But you see, multiplication is a little bit different because you're not adding your effort anymore, right? You're building builders, right? One times 10 times 100, right? That's what I want you to think about because guess what? It grows in every direction at once and it continues while you rest, right? It's not capped by your hours because guess what? They're not your hours anymore. See, it's all about 100 people each doing a little bit will always outbuild one person doing a lot. In fact, a lot of you know the famous saying by John Paul Getty, the first world documented billionaire. He says, I rather get paid 1% of 100 people's efforts than 100% of my own. You see, the math of a great life is multiplication, not addition, right? So let's talk about something. Now, we understand that, right? But there's a reason why smart, capable people tend to stay stuck in addition. And, I call it the hero trap, right? And, for me, I lived in it for years. And the hero trap, guess what? Sounds like three sentences. The first one sounds like this: I'll just do it myself, right? It's faster today. But guess what? It doesn't mean it's not fatal at scale. You see, because every task you keep is a leader that you didn't build. I want you to think about that for a second. Every task you keep is a leader that you didn't build. The second one is they can't do it like I can. And you're right. Guess what? At first, your people you're leading, they can't do it like you can. But guess what? A team of imperfect leaders will always beat a perfect solo act, right? Because guess what? Your job is not to be the best. Your job is to build the best. And the third, the most seductive one, is they need me. And I want you to listen closely, okay? I know you're sitting in your seats, but I want you to, if you haven't already, I want you to really pay attention to the next part because this is huge. If they need you, then you didn't build leaders. See, what you built was dependence wearing a cape. You see, the hero might get the applause today, but the multiplier gets the legacy and the freedom. And at the end of the day, why are we here, right? So you have to be willing to give up being needed to become someone who truly multiplies. Okay? So here's the law that changes how you lead everything. Okay? You see, your team is not built by what you say. It's actually built by what you model, right? And I actually learned this from Tony Robbins, modeling. What is modeling? Watching someone do something and emulating them, right? I heard Mr. Danny Bay share this a long time ago, over 20 years ago at my first convention. I remember Mr. Danny Bay on stage as he's sharing his testimonial. He said, he didn't say Julian. I always feel like he's talking to me, right? You ever feel that way, right? When you see a speaker and you're like, they're talking to me. And I remember him saying, he says, anything you need to say or do to become successful, chances are someone's already said it, someone's already done it. All you have to do is find those people, do what they do, say what they say, and you'll have what they have. And for me, that was huge. So all you have to do is find successful people and emulate them because success leaves clues, right? So what does that mean? Okay. What that means is that your team is not built by what you say, it's built by what you model, right? They follow your example more than your opinion, right? And that's why we often say that leadership is caught, not taught. What does that mean? It means people don't become like the leader who instructs them the most. They become like the leader they watch the most. See, you can run the best training in the world, but if your life contradicts your training, your team will follow your life every time. Okay? And this is why it's huge. See, it leads me to something that you have to be brave enough to hear. I heard this a long time ago. It says, the truth will set you free. We all want the truth, right? But you know the saying, you can't handle the truth. And I remember someone once said that, the truth will set you free, but first it'll piss you off, right? And I thought that was so true. But the thing about truth is it's undeniable, right? And so here's where this has led me to believe, and a truth I want to share with you. And it has to be one that you're brave enough to hear. If you understand it, if you get it, it'll change everything for you. And what that is very, very simple. Is that your team is a mirror. What does that mean? It means before you correct your team, read them. Because guess what? They're showing you exactly what you've been modeling. See, if your team is inconsistent, guess what? Look at your consistency. If your team won't commit, look at your certainty. If your team is low energy, look at the energy that you've been bringing into the room. And here's the hardest one. If your team won't duplicate, look honestly at whether you've been worth duplicating. See, I'm not saying that to shame anyone. I'm saying it because it's the most freeing thing I've ever learned as a leader. You see, it's so easy to point the fingers that when we point a finger at somebody, we fail to notice that there's three pointing right back at us. And as leaders, that's your job. If something goes well, you give all the credit away. If there's challenges and obstacles, it's your responsibility. And when you come from a place of responsibility, that's the greatest form of maturity, and you can figure it out and you can solve it, right? Because guess what? Here's what I'm saying. If the team is a mirror, the good news is you don't have to fix them first. All you have to do is fix what you're modeling. And guess what? The reflection changes. Instead of spending so much time trying to change others, all you have to do is show up and model the activity, the energy, the confidence, and the certainty that you want them to show up as. And as you do that, guess what? They will reflect that back. How amazing is that, right? How amazing is that? That the fastest way to change your team is to become the person you want them to be. How easy is that? How amazing is that? Because we know, right? We know who we want in our business. If I were to ask you to make a list of the ideal person, the ideal prospect you want to recruit, how do they show up in the business? How do they learn? How do they work? You would know exactly what you would want. So how do you attract those people? By being that person, taking those actions, taking those steps. And guess what? Other people who are following you are going to model you and do that. And people that already live their life based on those standards are going to see you and recognize you and want to join you on their journey, right? Because here's what we learn, right? At the end of the day, I want to be precise about what actually transfers to your team. Because, at the end of the day, not everything does. Because here's what won't duplicate, okay? Your speeches, your pep talks, the rules you post but don't live, the standards you announce on Monday and abandon by Thursday, right? None of that transfers because people see through it instantly. But you know what duplicates? Your habits, right? Your calm under pressure, your work ethic, when you think no one's watching. Because guess what? Someone always is. The standard you embody without saying a word, that's the one your team catches. This is why you can't fake leadership. You can only be it, right? Because guess what? You cannot extort a standard that you personally don't hold, right? You can't ask something of somebody that you're not willing to give yourself. People will see it. People will understand it, right? So here's the deal. So if leadership is caught, then your job is to become deeply catchable. Let me say it again. If leadership is caught, not taught, then your job is to become deeply catchable. And that's going to require a shift that most people never make, right? I mean, stop being the best producer and start building producers, right? Now, in Built to Last, right, we said identity drives everything. Who you're being shapes what you do, right? Now, here's the trap for successful people. Your identity is still top producer. You're proud of it. It's how you got here. But now your job has changed. And if your identity doesn't change with it, then guess what? You'll keep competing with the very people you're supposed to be building. Because the best leaders stop needing to be the best. That's what freed them to build the best. Okay? So how do you do it? Well, guess what? In this business, there are three roles, and they're a progression, right? The first is the producer, right? It's the I do the work, right? You get results yourself. It's necessary. Everyone starts here. But it's a ceiling that's capped by your own time. See, the second is leader. I lead the work. Now you get results through others. That's better, but it still depends on you. It still breaks the moment that you step away. See, the third is what I call multiplier, right? This is where I build the leaders, right? You build people who build people. And now, for the first time, it grows without you in the room. Now, I want you to be honest with yourself about which one that you're operating at right now. Not which title you hold, not which role you actually play day to day. If you're new, you're a producer, and that's exactly right. Just know where you're headed. Now, if you're a veteran and you're honest, many of you are still producers with a bigger title. You see, the goal is not to climb in rank, it's to climb in role. The rank will just happen automatically, right? So how do you actually make the shift, right? It's not mystical, right? It's where you spend your time. You see, there are 4 levels you can operate with at any task, right? You can do it, that task yourself. You can delegate it, right? Which is hand the task to someone else. You can develop them, which is teach them to lead the task, not just complete it. And you can multiply. This is where the person you develop now develops others, right? Most people live at level one, which is the doing, and they say they don't have time to build leaders. But guess what? You don't find time to build leaders. You reassign it, right? From doing to developing. Now, every hour you move up that ladder multiplies instead of adds, right? That's the beauty of it, right? The higher you operate, guess what? The less you do and the more happens. And that's where we all want to strive to, okay? So let's talk about it, okay? Oh, let me see. Now, let's talk about how you actually move people. Because most leaders get this exactly backwards, right? You see, people don't commit to the leaders who pushes hardest. They commit to the ones who are the most certain. I mean, think about the leadership or think about the leaders that you followed in your own life. The ones you will run through a wall for, the ones you will go to war for, right? Or as Tim would say, the one that you would break into a zoo and fight a Bengal tiger for. They weren't the loudest in the room. They weren't the calmest. They were the most sure. You see, there was something settled in them that made you feel settled too. That they had so much confidence and certainty that you could borrow theirs. And that's the key. Certainty is quiet and it's magnetic. And that's why you want to get to a place, right, where it changes everything. So this changes how you build your team, right? You see, most people, what they do is they chase, right? They try to convince the unconvinced. They beg people to show up, right? They carry people who won't walk on their own. And the more someone pulls away, the louder they get. But multipliers do the opposite. You know what they do? They attract. They clarify once, then they lead. They set a standard worth rising to. They pour into the deserving, not the reluctant. And when someone tests them, they get steadier, not louder. So here's the paradox. The moment you stop chasing people, you become someone worth catching up to. Because at the end of the day, you don't attract who you want, you attract who you are. And this is why, for me, I always talk about the four different pillars, right? The four pillars we talk about this whole journey are not private. See, your team can't see your intentions. They can only see your life. And that's why I'm a firm believer that when it comes to your fitness, your faith, your family, your business, those aren't just personal. They're your loudest forms of leadership because they're examples of your leadership outside of business, okay? Your fitness, guess what? Is discipline they can see. Proof that the standard is real. Your faith is grounding that they can feel. Certainty when the storm comes. You see, your family is peace that they can trust, right? Proof that your leadership isn't a mask that you take off at home. And your business is an execution that they can follow. A real path, not just a pep talk. Because you're not just delivering the message, you are the message. And your life is the only training your team never forgets. That was huge. Because at the end of the day, what are you really building for? And there's a huge difference between success and legacy. Okay. And so I want to talk about that in a moment. Okay. There's a huge difference, right? So I want to close by zooming all the way out. Okay. Success is what you build. Legacy is what you build in others. You see, success is measured while you're in the room. Legacy is measured after you leave it. Success ends when you do. Legacy doesn't end at all. And here's what I've come to believe, that most people chase success their whole lives and never realize that it was always meant to be the raw material for a legacy. So here's the real test of whether you led or whether you multiply. You see, anyone can influence the person right in front of them. That's presence. That's charisma. But a multiplier standard reaches people they'll never meet. What does that mean? You live the standard. Your leaders catch it from you. Their leaders catch it, and they never learn from you directly. And the fourth generation carries your standard and has never once met you. You know what's one of the most inspiring stories I've heard recently? And it was so casual, right? Because that's just where they're at in their business right now. And it was so casual. It wasn't like a subtle flex or anything like that. And, I was overhearing a conversation between National Director, Mr. Tim Her and Chris Kim. And they're just talking. I'm eavesdropping, right? Sorry, I was eavesdropping. I was nosy. And what they said was so inspiring. They said, "Did you just see that new director that popped? Did you see that new team leader that popped? How crazy is that we haven't even met them yet? We haven't even talked to them on a Zoom." For me, that was huge. That's where I want to get to. That's what a multiplier looks like, right? You're not just influencing the person right in front of you, right? It's reaching people that you'll never meet. Why? Because you set the standard. Tim and Chris set the standard. And guess what? The leaders that worked direct with them caught it from them. And then their leaders caught it from them. And then guess what? Now we have leaders getting promoted who never met Tim and Chris, who have their DNA, their teachings, their philosophies ingrained in them, and the system ingrained in them. That's the test. If your standard dies in the second generation, you led well. If it reaches the fourth, you multiply, right? The deepest proof of a leader is a standard carried by someone who never met them. And I think that's huge. That's something that I look forward to experiencing in this industry. I have a lot of different goals, right? Egotistical goals, right? Surface level goals, family goals. When it comes to business, like how great would it be to have a packed event, packed stadium, and majority of the people in that stadium in your group, and they don't even know who you are. That's powerful. I think that's huge, right? It reminds me of the saying that real leadership is the one that people barely know you're even there. And when the job is done, they would have said we did it ourselves. And I think that's huge. So as we wrap up, a couple things I want to leave you with. I love one-liners. I love quotes. That's how I learn, right? It just sticks with me. There's a huge important message. So I like including one-liners, right? So take these with you, right? Put them in your content, use them with your team, use them as reminders. You can take a picture of it. It's a lot easier, right? So again, a couple of highlights from what the training. So what did we talk about? There's a limit to what you build, but none to what you multiply. Every task you keep is a leader you didn't build, right? Leadership is caught, not taught. Your team is a mirror. Read it before you correct it. You cannot export a standard. You cannot export a standard that you don't personally hold. Stop being the best producer and start building producers. People commit to the certain, not the loud. And success ends when you do. Legacy doesn't end at all. All right, so a couple of things before we wrap up, right? Everybody's super excited about these events, right? Obviously, August 27th, Thursday, Riman Revealed. We have Senior Director, Ms. Susan Manuelo, and National Director, Ms. Karen Kang. Great opportunity for you to bring in your second exposures, prospects who are looking at the business for the first time. You want to pack them on this call. Everybody's running to close out the month right now, to close up as much volume, to wrap up manager, senior manager, to collect those bonuses. And this call is going to be one of the greatest tools in helping you and your team take advantage of that, okay? Friday night Zoom, one of my favorites that we've been doing, right? If you guys haven't been noticing, Friday night, Team 1% Leadership Call. We've been doing interviews. And let me tell you why I love this style so much, right? We can learn a lot from tips and tricks, PowerPoints and everything like you just did. But there's something powerful when you're hearing someone's story and their experience. It's like when you read a fictional book, you imagine yourself as that character, living that life, experiencing what they're experiencing. And here's what's amazing. You get a chance to learn the lessons without feeling the pain. And it sticks with you. It's huge, right? And so these calls are going to be so great. And for you to be able to see that success leaves clues and find out what's working for others so you can take what you like, leave what you don't, and go back into the laboratory, okay? As we all know, back to school special, right? Available August 26th, 5 p.m. Pacific time through August 31st, 11:59 Pacific time, right? Just to give you an idea, for every purchase of either an essential double cleanser or essential double cleanser ritual or essential double cleanse, right? You get a free either calming balancing gel or the trio of the different cleanser experience kit or the small malnourishing body cream, okay? So huge, 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 huge. And again, right now, everybody's running really, really hard to take advantage of the senior manager promotion that's available for newly promoted senior managers, right? With a start date this month, right? And also for their sponsor. There's no better time to take action than right now. We have so many different promotions. People are excited from convention. People's belief level is at an all-time high like never before. Now, here's what's exciting, right? Excitement, urgency is at all-time high. And this is where we need to take action, right? Because without action, desire, right, loses all value. So this is the time. This is the chance, okay? So again, pay attention. Go back into your organization. Look at who's close to qualifying for the unilevel, right? Who needs their 1000 SP? Go look at who needs their 3 customers or 5 customers, right, to qualify for their commissions. Go talk to your past customers, right? In case they need to reorder or whatever it is, or follow up. The people you showed the business to. This is the time to lock in. And here's what I promise you, right? For those of you that lock in right now, guess what? From now to the end of the month, from now to pay period deadline, you can actually close more business from now to the end of the month than you did the last 3 weeks simply because you focused and you dialed in. Okay. So right now, talk to your team, talk to your uplines, find out who's close to getting promoted and go to all out war for them. Okay. Show up for them. Okay. So as we wrap up this call, I'm going to leave you with this. One day, you won't be in the room. Not this room, any room. And the business will run. The meetings will still happen. The team will gather and you won't be there. And on that day, they won't remember your numbers. They won't recite your rank or your income, right? They're going to do something more powerful than remember you. They'll become you. The way you carried yourself, the standard you held when it was hard, the calm you led with when everyone else panicked. That becomes the standard they hold, and that becomes the standard they pass on. So again, built to last, you got a chance to decide who you are. Inedible, you made it compound. Legacy, this is where we get to give it away. And that's the only part that lasts forever. So that being said, I love and appreciate every single one of you. Let's go out there. Let's make it happen. Let's go out there. Let's go build someone, and let's take someone to the next level. Until next time, see y'all soon.